Hey guys, how you doing? So in this video, I was going to talk about some coding stuff, and I had my handy dandy 2016 MacBook Pro, and not so reliable. So this video is now going to be about the disappointment with Apple products. Now I use Apple products quite a bit. I got the MacBook Pro. This is 2016. I've been using these MacBook Pros for, I don't know, about a decade now. I just got an iMac a few months ago, which is an excellent computer, although it could use another USB-C port. That's the thing about Apple. So on the Pro, they only have USB-C. They don't have, the other type of USB, although other thin form factor laptops have the other ports, which would be kind of convenient. Meanwhile, on the new iMac, which is a nice big iMac, it only has two USB-C slots and has a bunch of older stuff in there. I don't know what it is, man. Since Steve Jobs went away, I'm wondering about things, Years and years ago, I used to think that the head of the company the importance of the head of the company was over-exaggerated. I can tell you now from my own experience in business, this is not the case. And Apple is a painful reminder of that. I think that Steve Jobs, who wasn't a nice human being by all accounts, but he did set the vision for that company, and he did make sure things were, the quality was there. If you look on YouTube, you can find a famous video where Steve Jobs is giving a presentation and a piece of hardware is not working, so I think it's a camera, and he whips it at somebody. Now, I'm not saying you should be whipping cameras at your employees, but it shows you a glimpse of, first, how much of a jerk he was, but second of all, also shows you how it takes somebody to go in there and do the quality control. So anyway, with this Apple MacBook here, so it got really fat one day. It just got fat, put on a lot of weight, ate too many Doritos and stuff. And so I thought I bent it, because I remember I put it on my desk, it was going like this, and it was all wobbly. I noticed that at the seam here, it was splitting. And I realized at that point in time that, it's the battery. Why did the battery expand? I said, I went on a bunch of flights. Was it the flights? How could the flights do that? I don't know. Anyway, upon further investigation, I saw it was a problem with the battery, and fortunately, Apple said, hey, it's our problem, so they fixed it. But in fixing it, they had to replace the entire top, replace the keyboard. Now, I had the first gen of his silly butterfly keyboard, which clicks and clacks and, and doesn't have much travel, and a lot of people don't like. Now, so they put the latest gen on, and the latest gen is actually much better. It's got a little bit more travel than the original generation. The whole keyboard thing that they put on here and this stupid touch bar here is a total disaster. It is like a big mistake engineering-wise. Form over function always loses out. You always want to make sure that you don't lose functionality in your pursuit of aesthetic quality. Anyhow, that being said, so they replaced the whole top, new keyboard, new touch bar. This was in June. Now, I noticed about a month ago, this touch bar doesn't work anymore. Now, the problem is that I can't escape things, which is very important, especially if you're typing. And this Touch ID doesn't work half the time. So sometimes when I hit it, it starts to work. But before I started smashing it, I took it to Apple, and they could tell. They did their diagnosis. They said, yeah, it's got to be replaced. Your whole logic board has to be replaced. Now, the thing is, it's intermittent. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sounds like there's like a little loose thing. So I'm going to have to maybe go to a independent repair company, because they want $1,000. Now, this is a 4-year-old laptop. Who's going to spend $1,000 on a 4-year-old laptop? The touch bar I hardly ever use, except, ironically, I started using when I was writing and it would complete words, and I could just tap and complete a word. So it was, if you had a long word that you want to write out, you could just go, oh, visibility, boom, and then you just click on it. That's about it. But it's a pain now because if I want to turn down the volume, I want to adjust the brightness, I just hotkey, I go into the system preferences, and here you go. So here's the thing. So I go to Apple, they tell you, oh yeah, it's messed up. And it worked before with the old keyboard. So they messed it up. But he said, yeah, but it's out of warranty now because it's only 90 days after repair. So even though they installed it and they messed it up, clearly, because I didn't drop it, you see it's in like brand new condition, so clean. And here we go. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed with Apple. Now, on the other hand, I have a Microsoft Surface 4, and the hardware is, like the main computer itself is pretty solid. Now, they had an external brick that you could plug stuff into, and that never worked properly. But the main computer itself is super solid, fantastic. Windows, I was getting tired of it because it kept updating every 2 minutes. Oh, we got to update, too many updates. I hear that's calmed down quite a bit since that time. So I was about to read a comment that was put to me on YouTube about freelancing and stuff. I was going to answer a question, but my laptop fritzed out on me, and here we go. So I decided to do this video instead. So what do you take out of this? Leadership is hugely important. I can tell you, when you're driving a company, I can tell you from being the guy who drives them, you need a leader to set the stage, to be the willpower, if you will, of the company. The willpower to say, okay, you got to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And a lot of times when you're running your business, or especially in the startup phase, it doesn't seem like anything's happening. You're pushing, it's a constant like walking through thick mud. And so you need somebody who sets the direction, and you need somebody who has the will to push the company forward. It's such an important part of the game. Anyhow, so that's important. A good leader is important. So we see, I think, Apple needs to find a new Steve Jobs, Cook, I'm sure he's a great operator, but he's a bean counter. He's not the innovator. He's not the guy like that. And so anyway, there we go. That's enough of that. So that's the story. Don't worry, I'll get to answering the questions. And that's it. Oh, by the way, we're about to launch the newsletter. I did a poll, and it looks like the newsletter is going to be called Need to Nerd. I've used that term before. I got the .com. And so the Need to Nerd newsletter, which will be free. And why am I putting out a newsletter? Because I want to not necessarily be dependent on any other company's platform, whether it be YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or whatnot. I want to have my own platform so I can keep in touch with the audience. And that's all. Why would you want to join the newsletter? The newsletter is going to have newsletter-only content. That's it. That's the incentive. Again, the main point of the newsletter for me is to have a direct connection with the audience, not dependent on any other platform. Basic rule of business, diversification. So I'll answer a question since you're still listening. You get a little question answered here. Somebody asked me about transitioning into freelancing. And they had a job, they're making pretty good money, and they're saying, what should I do? Stop my job, jump into freelancing? What do I do? Never stop the money from flowing when you got money flowing. If you want to jump to freelancing or start any business, really, you want to gradually transition out of your current money-making situation, and transition into freelancing. This way, you're not starving, you're not struggling. You don't want to put your back against the wall because you need money to pay the rent or pay the mortgage or whatnot. So you transition. Freelancing in the web space is ideal for that because you could work on client projects in the evening, on the weekends, and you can slowly transition from your full-time work to the freelancing. And then when you find that the freelancing gets to a point where it's making you enough money to cover all your expenses, then you can flip the switch and head over to the freelance. It also gives you time when you do this gradual shift over from old job to your own business. It gives you time to refine your product, whether it's a set of skills that you're offering, whether it's a type of specialized coding that you're offering. And this is general rule of business, by the way. And this way, you have time and runway to refine and iterate over what it is you're building. And this is going to be a very important for you for peace of mind. Trust me. You don't want to be pressured into having to earn that buck, especially in the beginning. But at some point, you're going to have to cut the cord with the old job to go full-time to push your business. But yeah, the key is gradual change from business, from money making a source of money. How should I put this? Gradual progression from source A of cash to the new source of cash, sort B, the freelance business or your SaaS business or whatever it happens to be. So there you go. Yeah. And again, I speak from experience, not just in the software development game, not just as a freelancer, not just as a SaaS builder, not just as an educator, but my first business is, back when I was a kid. For me, 18, had nothing to do with technology. Had nothing to do with technology. Early 90s. So I seen that this principle works across all industries. And so it's universal. All right, that's it. I still have Apple products. I have Apple. I have Windows products. I like Mac OS. It's generally, I find it more stable. No updating of the OS every 2 minutes. Although again, I heard Windows has calmed down with that. But this is it. I think that if Apple doesn't get their game together, like a lot of other creators, I might not be upgrading to Apple again, if depending how things look when it's time. All right, this time I'm out of here. Bye-bye.